the concept of digital utility and the need for digital utility is even more today, given the fact that the variabilities in the power supply has gone up very fast, and also the demand is facing a lot of challenges in terms of variability. Two factors are driving this change. First is we are increasing the component of variable renewable energy in the utility scale as well as embedded distributed energy. And second is we can see the weather change, climate change patterns which are happening around. So introduction of smart grid or digital grid to cater to the resiliency requirement, the reliability requirement of the power becomes very important. Now, let me start from when we say it's a digital grid or a smart grid. What is and where from the smartness comes into the grid? Smart meter is, yes, one such activity or one such device, which is a source of real-time data and basis which you can have insightful, conclusions, and basis that insightful conclusions you can have decisions made. I'll give you some concrete live examples on smart meter. Then I'll talk about the flexibility in the smart grid. And then I'll talk about what are the components which induce flexibility, provide flexibility. And third is the grid modernization. So what are the new tools, techniques, especially when you are moving from a SID of say about 1.5 hours per customer per annum, which is typical in India, to maybe few minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes per customer per annum. If you are having that kind of goal, you would need a very heavy degree of digital transformation of a digital utility. I'll try to, give some pointers on that. So first thing first, when you talk about smart meters, for example, we have experienced this in our utility where at the DT level, when we have installed smart meters 100%, and it is giving us very real-time insights into our operations, phase imbalances, overloading, and DT out messages. And this is actually helping us understand what is the state of power supply. We can cross-check if my underlying staff is not giving us correct picture, or even that staff is getting the real-time, alerts about the DT health as well. So that has helped us a lot in our operations over a period of time. And also the second thing is about the analytics to give what is the kind of loss level. So we are able to draw the loss level curves or hourly loss level curves of the DTs. And that too is giving us insights into if there is a particular time block in a day when the theft rises, or there is some activity which is not so usual, because you can do the pattern mapping of the DT, load patterns. So this also we have started, and that has yielded a very good result. Third is phase imbalances, and therefore leading to chances of failure of the DT. Now, since people are aware of the phase imbalances on a real-time basis, especially on a peak demand day, that brings out the fact that probably the distribution of the connections on the three different phases of the distribution transformer are not balanced, and therefore they need to be balanced. So course correction in the real time is now becoming a possibility, which was not there earlier, because the meter data used to come maybe 1.5 months or 2 months later, after the meter reader would go there and take down the reading, right? So, and otherwise that would have been late, and probably earlier the transformer failures might be a little bit higher. Today, we are able to preempt that. That is not happening. So that way, longevity and the transformer health is getting taken care of. So the smart meter on DT have already given us a very good insight on our network, on our energy accounting, the health of the DT, and therefore our quality of supply, continuity and reliability of the supply to the same. This is just one example of how a smart meter is creating a smart utility. And we are also going forward with the digital twin of the low voltage network on the low voltage side of the smart meter. And that is giving us a very crisp view, a real-time view of where the fault exactly is. So the pilots that we have done, so for example, in Janakpuri, and we are now expanding with the help and approval of the Honorable Commission, helped us to reduce our outage restoration time from maybe 55 minutes to 25 minutes, almost half. So this is the beauty of such digital twin and digital grid, the low voltage side, which was otherwise not visible to the load operators. We have visibility up to 11 kV outgoing, which is SCADA. Even ADMS will give you visibility up to your maybe FRTU managed ring main units at the 11 kV side. But on the low voltage side, the visibility was not there. So with the digital twin, you are able to pinpoint at which feeder pillar, which pole, or between two poles where the fault is there. So fault localization, alert generation is becoming a reality. So that way you are able to create a digital twin of the entire end to end. So right now through SCADA, you have digital twin till 11 kV outgoing, starting from say 66 kV. And with this digital twin or low voltage, you are going end to end till customer meter. This is going to be extended to dumps where you have insights into what is happening behind the meter. So that way you are able to more do the load shaping, provide demand flexibility services to the customer. The customers becoming prosumers can participate in the grid load shaping, and therefore grid planning can become more efficient. Today, as we are aware, the load patterns on the grid or the DTs, it is maybe loaded only 25-30% of its rated load for 80-85% time of the year. And it is loaded maybe 100% maybe for less than 1% of the year. And that is a skewedness because of the thanks to the weather that we have in Delhi, for example. So the load shaping and load balancing needs to be there. And for that flexibility, which I was talking about, becomes very, very important. That is the cornerstone, that is the basis or pedestal for rolling out of the next business model of a discom, which is a distributed system operator. So this has already been talked about in the draft NEP by the government. MOP, what is DSO and how the DSO rollout is going to happen in the next few years. So the flexibility tapping, the measurement, real-time awareness, and dispatching of the flexible resources and the DERs becomes very, very important for DSO construct to be actually, brought forward. Storage becomes a very important. We have done storage, for example, at 11 kV level, also at distribution transformer level, secondary side, which is 400 volt also. That has yielded a good amount of positive result in terms of capex deferral, in terms of energy arbitrage, improving the energy, reliability and quality of the power. And also it helps in the bigger size, 11 kV and above. It has additional advantages in terms of providing SRAS ancillary services, that is secondary reserve, and also helpful for as a grid forming inverter. So in case of a black start requirement, in case of blackout, that can help. So the islanding schemes of the cities can think of battery storage as a part of the islanding scheme it provides. So that flexibility, these are all front of the meter flexibility I'm talking about. That is going to help us and is helping us in network planning while also helping us with energy arbitrage. So these battery storages are embedded within the distribution control area. And that way it is also helping us to control the GNA charges, general network access charges, because they are to be borne at the peak hour when you are drawing more, TGNA, for example. So if you are able to peak shave the load using the storage embedded within and that digital grid, because these are all linked to our SCADA control room through AI-enabled EMSs, energy management systems. So the logics is all fed when to charge, when to discharge, and that way it is helping us in dynamic load management while charging it in the solar hours when the solar hours the rates are very, very low, and then discharging during the peak non-solar hours where the load is also high and the rates are also high. So both ways the benefits are getting accrued. So that way the payback period is very, very short and very much there today. Extending this to behind the meter would be our endeavor next as we move on to a DSO, especially in the areas where the space is not there to upgrade the transformer, but the load growth has been very phenomenal by the new connection or the existing connection enhancing its load requirement. So there the storage, and mainly it is cooling load, by the way, which is there prevalent for few days in the entire year when everybody switches on the air conditioner, the diversity factor going up to unity. Everybody is, putting up the air conditioner. So that point in time, even kilowatt hour scale, like you have power wall kind of like how Tesla gives, that kind of solutions are going to help in terms of which are grid connected, integrated. That means they run in parallel with the grid. It's not a UPS. It's not a UPS. That means that when there is no power, you will run your battery. No, it's a battery which is running in parallel to the grid. And that is providing flexibility services to the grid in terms of either you meet your own load using that flexible services, or you may export also to the grid and get paid for it through the demand flexibility mechanism. So this is going to be the game changer in times to come, especially in the compact discoms like Delhi, where the peak load is growing at a faster rate than the energy input growth. Because of you see, on a hot afternoon where you have 44, 45 degrees Celsius temperature, the load is very, very high. Suddenly the thunderstorm comes in, the load crashes by few gigawatts actually, 1 gigawatt, 2 gigawatt, maybe, or 3 gigawatt. So it is very, very sensitive load to the weather in climates like Delhi. So it becomes very important to have flexible resources which can tap such kind of changes in the weather and go beyond. Coming to the digital utility customer side, the customers need a service and they expect a service which is akin to they are used to at other platforms. For example, Amazon. So we all or most of us would be using Amazon services. It's mostly, contactless. We are not talking to the customer care of Amazon very seldom, very rarely, but the service is seamless. And they have introduced multiple products like or services. Amazon Now, for example, Amazon Now is there. Then hour ahead deliveries and next day deliveries. All you can schedule your deliveries. All things are there. Now, whether that kind of service can also be given in electricity. So we are now, and that is possible because CRM integrated with the grid. As we know, the utility, the grid, the network, and the customer are two sides of the same coin. In India, the network and the customer are to be managed by the distribution licensee. So there's no separation of carriage and content yet. So therefore, it provides a very good opportunity to have a 360-degree view of customer service where the customer can get a complete view on what are her requirements. For example, new connection, visibility of her request of a new connection at each and every step without her getting hassled or where to call, where to go, etc. Second is your new current, no connection, no current complaint. That means outages. So can we track our linemen coming to our place and then resolving us, just like we can track our, for example, you have Uber or maybe Porter, you are able to track your service provider actually. You can schedule it. So such services. Then, for example, I want to buy something energy efficient appliances, or I want to get some energy audit services. I want to get a EV charger at my home. I want to get some other services. So how can I have a very seamless service in terms of the customer? So I was talking about a video bot when I started. That is one of the areas or the means by which it can be done. So you see a lot of, and this is a part of the digital utility. So the digital utility means not only the grid is digital, but the interfaces with which you interact with the customers also becoming digital, which is convenient to the customer. So the customer should feel that you are talking to one of your own. It should not be something new which is complex for the customer. The customer will not accept that. So, for example, if she is And for example, linguistic, for example, language choice, the accent, the voice, the empathy in the video bot becomes very, very important. And that way she will feel that, okay, fine, I'm speaking to somebody human and she is able to understand and, give me a appropriate service. Otherwise, I will go to that extra mile at press this button, and finally I'll press 9 to speak to a human voice. So to avoid that and improve the quality services deliverable to be improved in a matter of few seconds, such video bots, because IVRS is now getting pass. So nobody is believing into IVRS. Is not very convenient. It's very mundane. So the video bots are the next big thing where AI managed video bots, which are able to respond to your maybe 90-95% of the queries, regular queries through analytics in the backend. Last but not least, the digital grid have to have, and they have to be cyber secure.